Hello and welcome to another video. So today we are making pakoras. Now, pakoras are a great way to start introducing savory and vegetable based meals to your sessions or outdoor cooking. Ever since I've been introduced to pakoras, I've been on a bit of a pakora cooking spree with all of my groups, and they've gone down really well. So they're a bit of an alternative to all of the sweet stuff that usually makes up campfire cooking. So your baked apples, your sweet popcorn, marshmallows, s'mores, banana boats, dumplings, donuts, and all that sort of stuff. It's a good way to start bringing some other stuff in, including, if you can, some foraged ingredients. So these are simple to make. They are deep fried, but hey, at least we're eating vegetables. So in terms of what you need to make the pakoras, you are going to need, first of all, some gram flour, so that'll be the base for the batter. Then you need a selection of spices. Now I've gone relatively simple for most of my pakora mixes because I'm trying to create something that is tasty enough but is not going to be overpowering for those with more sensitive palates, and people who have sensitivity to chili or paprika, something like that, don't like spicy food. This mix works well. So I use a mix of cumin, turmeric, fenugreek and ground coriander, and then with some salt as well. You'll need some vegetable oil to fry the whole lot in, though you could use ghee if you're that way inclined. And then you need a mixture of vegetables to go in. Now this is where you can start to diverge from the recipe quite a bit. So you need your core spices, you definitely need the gram flour, and you definitely need something to fry it in. You can also shallow fry or pan fry them. You don't need to essentially deep fry them, but I find for the best results, deep frying is the way to go. So what you can have a range of vegetables to use for this, so you can use whatever you have left over in your fridge. If you have cabbage, cauliflower, in this case I've got onions, potatoes and carrots, which is a kind of good blend in there, but you can add ginger. You can even forage around for nettles, wild garlic, chickweed, sticky weed. There are plenty of wild edibles in early spring and summer. Just make sure you know what you're eating, obviously, and do check out my videos on foraging as well. So basically it's lots and lots of different vegetables. Whatever you have, you can make your own mixes, go out and forage them as well. And then what you want to do is you want to get them sliced and grated as thinly as possible. So what you'll need in terms of equipment, then you'll need a grater, chopping boards, knives, measuring spoons and cups, and then a pot to cook it all in. Now I'm using a relatively small Dutch oven because I'm only cooking for 3 today. I would recommend something slightly bigger, but you can make use with a small billy can if you do them one at a time. If you're only doing a small batch, bigger the pot, the better. I recommend about an FT9 Petromax Dutch oven. That would be a good kind of middle of the road for most groups up to say about 20-25 people. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the batter. So we're going to go with our 1 cup of gram flour, and then approximately half a teaspoon each of all of the other spices. Now I'm notoriously bad at taking measurements, so I'm just going to do it by eye, so roughly the same amount. If you're cooking for a slightly bigger group, I'd recommend doubling this, so go for 2 cups gram flour, go for 1 teaspoon each of all of the spices. There we go, add water bit by bit. So what we want to do is we want to create a relatively thick batter because we want it to stick to the veggies. Make sure you break up all of those pockets of spices. So there we go, that's our batter prepared. Now on to the vegetables. Now the thing that I really like about this recipe as a group cooking exercise is it has entry points for any level. So whether it is getting the kids to mix together the batter, getting someone on peeling, doing some grating, or even at the other end doing some chopping. There's little bits and pieces for everyone to get involved, no matter the age or ability. Like I said, foraged bits and pieces are amazing too in this. It's a real taste of springtime. Have either wild garlic or nettle pakoras. Bear in mind, later in the year, it's not wise to gather nettles because of the crystals in the leaves. So make sure you get them before they flower. So all I'm doing is a rough bit of peeling, and then we're going to look to get them as thin as possible. So the goal with any vegetable prep, so this will work whether it's onions, carrots, or even something like cauliflower, is you want to get the pieces thin and as small as possible. So grater is a good way to do that. Of course, there's going to be some particular vegetables that don't necessarily grate as well, like onions. And the goal with these is just going to be to get them as thinly sliced as possible. You want quite a long, thin cross section, so don't worry too much about getting them diced into tiny little chunks. You actually want almost more of a julienne, so lots of little sticks, lots of little slices. So with the onion, go in, slice as finely as I can. Obviously this isn't if you've got kids cutting this, don't worry too much if they do cut chunky bits. Just try and get them to slice as thinly as possible. Once you've got all of your veggies prepared, then we can go straight into the batter and combine. Again, another activity for some of the more kinesthetically minded, those working on that gross motor control. So I can probably get some more veggies into this because I've got quite a bit of batter, but I want all of it to be able to stick together in clumps of batter and veggies for when it goes into the pot. So I've got the fire going underneath the pot and the oil heating up, and I've just saved a couple of pieces of carrot because out in the woods you're unlikely to have a thermometer with you, so we look at different ways of gauging whether the oil is ready to go, and one of the easiest is to just drop something in and see how it reacts. See, you may or may not be able to see, but there's no little bubbles around that piece of carrot that I just dropped in there. So what we're looking for is that fast sizzle of bubbles around the edge of whatever you drop in. So we can now watch that, and once we start seeing bubbles appear around that further in, we can add another piece, see whether it reacts, and once we've got a good load of small bubbles around the edge, then we know we're ready to go in with the batter. Okay, our piece of carrot is sizzling away. We're just going to drop in another piece. You can see we've instantly got bubbles around the edge. Now when you're working with groups and hot oil and fires, there are obviously some things to be careful about, but there are some ways to mitigate it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the pot that we're using is on a sturdy base. So I've got this little trivet underneath here, So that means it's not moving around as much. You typically don't want to be hanging in the pot for things that involve hot oil unless you're working by yourself. But if you're working with a group, I'd recommend getting it on a good sturdy base. Then gloves are always a nice thing to have. You can add a bit of layer of protection, so some gloves with a nice long gauntlet. Try and find ones that are appropriate size for the learners adding things to the pot. And the key whenever you're adding anything to hot oil is to get a spoonful and then bring it down as close to the oil as possible and gently lower it in. You don't want to drop things at height because that leads to oil splashes, that leads to burns, that leads to flares up from the fire. If there's a lot of hot flames coming around the outside of the pot, it might just be wise, just for a moment or two, hook it off the fire pit, put it on one side, add the batter in, and then we can then put it back on the fire. That might be a safer option than trying to put it in over the fire, particularly if the children or the people participating are worried about the flames on the sides. So anyway, we're going to leave it cooking for a minute or two. How fast it cooks in the outdoors, and on a campfire, this is always just do it by eye, just see how it goes. So I reckon it's probably going to be at this heat about 1 to 2 minutes each side. So if I just take a peek underneath, you can see it's nice and golden brown, and flip it over. The nice thing about these pakoras, because there's no egg or meat in there, first of all it's vegan friendly, dairy friendly, and also it doesn't matter too much if you undercook it. It's not going to cause you massive problems, you're just going to lose out on a bit of crunch, but it's not going to cause anyone any significant harm. So just give it a couple of minutes, have a peek underneath, and then flip them over. And then you want to get a plate ready and a slotted spoon ready to pop them out. Once it's looking golden brown and crunchy, we can get a slotted spoon, or in my case a slotted potato masher underneath, and we can just pop it out onto some paper towels just to absorb some of that oil. Nice and golden, crunchy. And there we go. It's as simple as that. Now these are fantastic on their own, just as they are. But if you have an adult group or one who has a bit more of a spicy palate, some chili sauce or mango chutney or something like that works wonders and will be a really nice accompaniment. So there we go. I hope you'll consider giving these a go. As I say, they have become a firm favourite and a good addition to my rotation of more savoury meals at forest school and in bushcraft camps. Before we go, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Wellness Woodlands. I'm going to thoroughly enjoy eating these in this peaceful little glade over here. And if you'd like to do the same, and you're looking for a campsite in the kind of Shropshire, West Midlands area, then do check out Wellness Woodlands. Links in the description below. Also, if you are looking for many more activity ideas and want to know what some of my firm favorites are, I do have a free activity guide PDF. It's linked to my website, so free to download. Just drop your details in the email box and I'll send it over to you, as well as some other tips, resources and ideas for things to do outdoors. With that, thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember to make the most of every day, and I'll catch you next time.